Today, I thought I'd try a new segment with you guys, my awesome fans. First of all, I would like to thank you. My Toy Story 4 video actually just went over 50 views. That's 50 more views than I thought it was going to get, so big thumbs up to you guys. Keep watching, and thanks for your support. Now, I want to do a new segment today where I compare two different things, an old version and a new version. And the first one I want to do today is the old Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi directed, starring Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst Spider-Man movies, and the new Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, directed by Mark Webb. Which, can we just give some brownie points right there to Mark Webb directing Amazing Spider-Man? Oh, that's fun. Come on, you know you clapped. Don't lie. So we can't really look at them as individual films. I think it's easier to look at them in certain categories, because both films have their strengths and have their weaknesses. So first of all, we're going to look at the love interest for both films. Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man, and Mary Jane in the original Spider-Mans. Okay, hands down, Emma Stone is better. It's easier to see. Emma Stone, there's really no competition there. Kirsten Dunst, she kept putting herself in danger. She really didn't have any chemistry with Tobey Maguire whatsoever. You couldn't really tell that they loved each other. Emma Stone, on the other hand, people that know me know I hate sappy. Anything sappy. But Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's relationship, yeah, it was sappy and cheesy, but it worked. It really worked. Like, you could tell that they had this great sense of chemistry and they really loved each other. Probably because they're dating in real life, and they have been since Amazing Spider-Man 1. They have this connection. They really play off each other well, and it gives this better feel that they're together, and they should be together. And more or less, Emma Stone was a better character than Mary Jane was. Gwen Stacy helped Spider-Man. She wasn't some damsel in distress. Amazing Spider-Man, she's trying to get the toxin, despite Spider-Man's best wishes, so she's trying to help him. What has Mary Jane done? She basically gets kidnapped every single movie. Come on, girl. Even Daphne in the Scooby-Doo movies took self-defense class eventually so she wouldn't get kidnapped anymore. Do the same. Well, if you got the woman, you got some bad force trying to take him every time. So, next topic is the villains. This one's a little bit tougher to pick. But I'm going to go back to the original villains in this category. Why? I think the newer movies had some better actors cast in it, but we didn't get enough time to see them in those roles. Like, the original ones, oh, those villains are so cheesy. Like, who could forget the cheesiness level that William Dafoe brought as the Green Goblin? And he was just really over the top and cheesy, but it gave it this, like, authentic comic book feel. It felt more fun. And contrast that with Alfred Molina's Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, he was an even better villain. And they just had this, they seem to be more having fun in the classical villain, like the twirl your mustache, I'm gonna be evil for the sake of evil, and really give the hero a run for his money. In these new Spider-Man movies, they're not really evil. They're just kind of there, or they have some weird connection to Spider-Man. Like the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man. If you really get down to it, he's not evil. He really has no beef with Spider-Man. At the end, when the guy in the hat, who's assembling the Sinister Six, even though the Sinister Six movie shouldn't be happening for a while yet. Come on, Sony. Slow down. Back to the topic. He wants to defend Peter. When he goes into lizard mode, that's when he loses control. But even then, he's basically trying to help. Lizard mode is the Hulk version of him, except just calm down a lot. Lizard really isn't that bad. Yes, Goblin could have been awesome in Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Dane DeHaan. I was really excited when they cast Dane DeHaan. He was great in Chronicle, great in Lawless. But we didn't really get enough time with him. I think he is a better actor than James Franco was as Goblin in the original Spider-Man movies. But I go with Franco over DeHaan as Goblin because we got 3 movies to see where he was evil. the first one, you could see that he and Peter were friends. They had this connection. They had this bond. 2, he starts turning, and you could see that motivation. You could see that hate growing into him. So by the time the 3rd movie rolls around and he's New Goblin, you could see why he's New Goblin, and you could see why he's evil. Amazing Spider-Man 2, sorry. He's just kind of evil because the story asks for it. You get him introduced and turning evil in more close to about 45 minutes to an hour within each other. You don't really get enough time for Peter and the Goblin to act, not Goblin because he's not Goblin yet, but you don't have enough time for Harry and Peter to show that they're friends, and there's not really enough transformation in there. Just because Amazing Spider-Man 2 was really, really rushed. Overall, yes, the original Spider-Man villains are way more cheesy, but that's what makes them more memorable in my mind, better than these newer ones. Yes, and I purposely left Electro off this because he's too cheesy, and not in a good way like the original ones were. So, how does Spider-Man become Spider-Man? I think when you look at the two of them, they handle the origin story a little bit differently, and that's good. Amazing Spider-Man, when they did the origin story, they wanted to make it different from the first one so that they didn't retread the storyline of the very first Spider-Man movie. Which makes sense, because we've seen it before, but at the same time, you don't want to go away from the established Spider-Man story of bitten by a spider, could have led a criminal past, so on and so forth, yada yada yada, I'm the big red machine. Well, actually, that's Cincinnati Reds. I'll go with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That makes a lot more sense. But at the same time, it didn't feel like the classical Spider-Man story. The first Spider-Man movie hit all the right notes. It felt like it was right out of the comics. Right down to the wrestling, and awesome job by Randy Savage, may he rest in peace, in that. Whereas this one, why did you put on tights again? Oh yeah, because you got beat up by a criminal. So you put on a hockey mask and beat up other criminals. Plus, that leads me to my next point of, in the first movie, he becomes Spider-Man out of guilt for the loss of Uncle Ben. In Amazing Spider-Man, he himself is not directly responsible for Uncle Ben's death. In the first set of Spider-Man movies, he's definitely responsible. He let the criminal get past him in the elevator. He straight up opened the door for him. But no, he didn't stop him at all, leading to his grandpa's, his uncle. Yeah, not his grandpa. I don't think he has an grandpa, not that we know of. If he was, he's probably dead because he's a loved one of Spider-Man's. And if you were loved by Spider-Man, sorry, spoilers for Amazing Spider-Man 2. But, back to the original point, Uncle Ben is the reason he is Spider-Man. He has that guilt. He wants to make sure it doesn't happen ever again. Kind of like the Batman aspect of losing his parents. He wants this sense of justice and sense of responsibility going forward. With great power comes great responsibility. So that begs the question, who was the better Uncle Ben? I would say I like seeing Amazing Spider-Man 2 spend more time with him, and we have this better connection in the newer Spider-Mans to Uncle Ben. But at the same time, the first set of Spider-Man movies, he really felt more loving and more of an embrace, and you felt it more when he died because he was more of an affectionate, overprotective uncle. Like, you could tell that he loved Peter. Not saying that Martin Sheen's performance as Uncle Ben, you couldn't tell that he loved him either. You could tell that there was a sense of bond there. But the first Uncle Ben was seemed to come across more as compassionate, and you felt it more, like he was a member of your own family. So, I would like to say that it was Amazing Spider-Man because we got to see Uncle Ben more before he died, but I really gotta go back to the original. And guys, come on, the original is really winning here, so we gotta give another category to the new one. So, I'm gonna move on to we're gonna go to the final category of who is the best Spider-Man, old or new. And to answer that, we gotta split that into two halves. Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Because those are two different performances. I think the best Peter Parker is Tobey Maguire. The best Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. Now let me explain. Peter Parker is a very shy, timid nerd. He doesn't really get along with people. He's friendly, but he's so awkward that he doesn't really have a lot of friends. He's a nerd. He is a bit of an outcast. And so Tobey Maguire had more of that presence. He was a very shy and timid guy. It provides for a better contrast for when he's a nerd to when he's Spider-Man. When he's Spider-Man, he's in a mask. No one knows who he is. And yes, he didn't disguise his voice whatsoever, making Kristen Dunst's Mary Jane even dumber that she couldn't figure out who it is, even though she talks to both of them basically every day. It made a better contrast to go from this shy, timid guy to this strong Spider-Man figure that's basically protects all of New York. Now, Andrew Garfield is the opposite of that. He's kind of the same character with or without the mask of Spider-Man. Okay, picture in your head, which character am I talking about? Snarky teenager giving off one-liners and making fun of bullies. Now, was I describing Peter Parker, or was I describing Spider-Man? Yeah, you can't tell the difference, because Andrew Garfield was the same. In Amazing Spider-Man, he made fun of Flash Gordon by stealing the basketball or doing this, that, and that. When he's Spider-Man, he does the exact same thing. It's not so much a contrast, and you need to have that contrast because that's what a superhero is supposed to be. It needs to show the contrast between what you are when you don't have a mask and what you can achieve when you have that mask and show that alter ego of you. Now, I will say, though, that Andrew Garfield did bring the Spider-Man back to his original roots of being a nerd. He made his own webbing, which, thank goodness for that. I didn't buy that at all with Sam Raimi's original. It comes out of the skin. That's kind of weird, because a common Spider-Man problem was he would run out of webbing, but, oh, okay, whatever. And you kind of had, like, claws or something coming out of your fingers? Whatever. But he solved things with his brain, but he still kind of gave off this, like, skateboarding hipster vibe. Not so much I'm a nerd, I'm socially awkward. Yeah, I stuttered through Amazing Spider-Man more than Shia LaBeouf did in the Transformers movies. Yeah, so, Gwen, would you... Oh, wait, I didn't ruffle my hair and make it look awesome. Sorry about that. Now I'm Andrew Garfield. But he made all this stuff for himself, and he gave this sense of nerd, but he seemed more like the cool dude that you want to hang out with. That's too relaxed and it just didn't really care. He wasn't that nerdy. Tobey Maguire had that presence of being nerdy. So, Peter Parker, I'll say, goes to the original. But Spider-Man, the character of Spider-Man, definitely goes to Andrew Garfield. Spider-Man, the Spider-Man that I know, there's different versions, but the Spider-Man I know is a tall, lanky, but still built kind of guy. For the people that know him, he's got a Nightwing build, tall and thin. Basically picture myself if I had muscles and wasn't socially awkward. That's Spider-Man with a mask. And so he's got, well, better one-liners than I do. He has all these one-liners, and he's really snarky and basically talks his way out of a paper bag and talks himself out of any situation. And he's super resourceful. Like I said earlier, he built his own webbing. He builds all this stuff to help himself. And yet, he was more classic Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire was. Tobey Maguire, I don't know how to describe it. I think he was trying too hard to be a superhero, not the Spider-Man superhero. He was trying to be this all heroic and mighty, and he wasn't enough of a teenager. He grew up when he was Spider-Man. That's how I would describe it. Tobey Maguire, he was the adult Spider-Man, but the thing is, Spider-Man needs to be a teenager. He needs to go through those struggles and act like a teenager. He's immature. He hangs out with Deadpool from time to time. Not all the time, but they've teamed up before. They make snarky comments. That's what teenagers do. That's why I liked Andrew Garfield coming back as Spider-Man. He was snarky, he was rude, he was condescending to criminals. He knew he had him won, but he just messed with them anyway. And he cared about people. Like, yes, I hated the scene in Amazing Spider-Man where he takes off his mask, basically revealing his identity to this little kid. But you could tell he cared about this kid and wanted to get him out of there safe and sound. So he did what he needed to. Thus, I felt more of a sense of, you are really a hero than I did with Tobey Maguire. Plus, I didn't like Amazing Spider-Man 2 all that much. I thought there's a lot of plot points going on, but that's a video for another day. But when I found out the costume that they went with for Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it is different from the Amazing Spider-Man 1, I loved it. It was ripped right out of the comics, and I think it's still one of the best comic costumes I've ever seen. And Not to say that I didn't like Tobey Maguire's. That was perfect. But then when you see Andrew Garfield in Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's just great. So overall, I would have to say that it's a pretty close race. There's goods and bads of both sides. Because you got Amazing Spider-Man 2 for the new ones. That's not that great. And then you got, oh my god! Oh, stop it! Stop it! Put it away! Put it away! Oh, no, we don't talk about that movie. Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys, I had a Spider-Man 3 flashback with the... That's the reason why we have Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. But either way, yes, we're not going to have Spider-Man in the Avengers anytime soon. But I don't care, because we're going to have we're going to have more and more of these Spider-Man stories and different takes on the character. Eventually, Andrew Garfield will be gone as Spider-Man. It's a fact. Sorry, ladies that are in love with him. Although I don't blame you, his hair is fantastic. But you're going to have a different actor and a different variation of the character. And that's good. More variations means more interesting stories. Batman's gone through the same thing with Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, George Clooney, Val Kilmer. All those different actors playing the same character. It gives different personalities. So whether you like the old Spider-Man or you like the new Spider-Man, either way you come out a winner. Unless for some reason you like Spider-Man 3. In which case, no. Go back to your angry blogs and whatever else, because you clearly have no judgment if you like Spider-Man 3. That's a wild accusation, I know, but it's kind of true. Yeah, I bash on Spider-Man 3 because it's pretty bad. So, let me know. Do you guys like old Spider-Man, or do you like new Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield? And can we all just agree that Emma Stone's the best? Basically, ever. Alright, let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, go to facebook.com/movieguy17 or Twitter @NMovieGuy17. That's all for now. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals.